Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch, and this is Crime Talk. Thank you for tuning in. Tonight is our Tuesday night live, and not only am I happy that you're here, I'm happy that I'm here. Just quickly, for those of you who do not recall or know, last week we didn't put on a show any day, Monday through Saturday, which was very rare and unusual for sure. Occasionally things would come up and I would have to miss a show because of a trial or something along those lines, but nothing along the lines of what I had to go through for the last 12 days. Excuse me, still got a little bit of a cough there. Anyway, feeling much better. Had to deal with that little coronavirus, and I'm now convinced there's three types of people in the world: those that have had the coronavirus, those who have it, and those who are going to get it. And the weird and scary thing about it is the fact that you don't know if you're going to be the one that has no symptoms or whether it's just going to be like man down, which is the way I felt for literally about 12 days. It was brutal. Wouldn't wish it upon, well, I'd maybe wish it on a couple of people, but I say that half-heartedly because it was not fun. I assure you of that. But needless to say, I feel better, and I hope that everyone out there stays healthy. I hope you don't get it, but if you do get it, don't hesitate to go to the doctor because they can come up with quite the little cocktail of drugs to help out, in my particular case, the most excruciating headache of my entire life. Okay, you have to understand, I'm the guy who has only missed work twice in 20 years. 2 days. 2 days in 20 years that I've been in private practice because of illness. And I totally blew that record last week. So, it had to have been serious, no doubt. But I feel so much better. And today I feel fabulous. Still got this little bit of a cough, but the doctor had given me this little inhaler that it helps to kind of free up the lungs a little bit so I don't cough. So hopefully that won't happen too much. But anyway, so I'm glad you're here with me. I'm glad that I'm here to be able to be here for you. I truly appreciate all the kind words that people put out. It instills a little bit of maybe faith in mankind that if I were to pass away, then maybe I've made a little bit of a difference in somebody's life. Hopefully make their world maybe just a little bit better, which is, I think, hopefully when it is our time, that's all we can say that we have done. So that being said, getting back to normal. But of course, the court systems, at least here in Colorado and across the United States, are basically still operating in a COVID world, which means WebEx and no jury trials because we can't have people assembling. I'm not sure how they're going to do this when they shut everything down before, when we had, like 300 cases a day. And now I think Colorado had a peak day of some 5,000 cases the other day. And there's no stimulus for people. And, that's often frustrating, particularly people that are working in the restaurant industry, the bar industries, things like that, where they're shutting everybody down saying you can't go eat at a restaurant anymore. So anyway, bottom line, you all are grown adults. Take care of yourself. Do what you need to do. And we'll simply move on from there. Now, a couple of things we want to talk about here on Crime Talk this evening. Obviously, we put out a video today. Poor Lori Laughlin out there living the struggle. The struggle is real for her. Whole 60 days of discomfort away from her family in a strange environment. And just think about it. There's people that have been in custody for 40 years and ultimately found to be innocent of a crime that they didn't do, on death row possibly. And yet, what do people want to talk about? They want to talk about Lori Laughlin and her 60-day struggle in the Federal Bureau of Prisons in Dublin, California, that is. So she'll make it through. She'll be okay. But it just makes you think there were people that were in prison for things they didn't actually do. And she did something, committed wire fraud, and she gets 60 days. And although she's not officially complaining, through other people, she's letting them know how difficult it is being locked down and in solitary confinement and general population and having to wear prison boots that everybody has to wear. Can you imagine having to wear the same thing as everybody? Oh my God. I mean, to a West Coast elitist like that, who thought that, I'm gonna just write a check for $500,000 so my undeserving daughter could get into a school that she wasn't qualified to get in. I mean, this must have hit complete rock bottom here. Can you imagine? Oh my God. So anyway, so we talked about that, and then we talked about also in the show earlier today, we talked about, Ricky Schroeder, because he helped out with the bond with Kyle Rittenhouse and he was getting threats. And, I'm just like, why does everything have to be political? Why can't things just be about the law? Okay. And I'll be the first to tell you, there are some really poorly written laws out there. There are some really dumb laws out there. The problem is we get these legislators, we get these congressmen that write the federal laws, obviously, they just don't know what the hell they're doing. And they listen to people and go off on these knee-jerk reactions like, we must do something now, we must react. And they really just don't think things through. And part of me says, please don't do any more because you're only making it worse. And then the other part of me says, thank goodness, thank you. You've put my children through college. I have a nice house, have, some investments. Thank you, legislators. Because you were so bad at drafting laws, you've made a very good living for me and many attorneys like me. So keep up the good work. I just don't know. But why can't people just keep it simple? But everything has to be political these days. The man thinks that the kid deserves to be out of custody. He's 18 years old now? If that was your kid, wouldn't you do everything you could to get your kid out of custody if it was a bond and somebody said, hey, I'll help you out? You'd probably take them up on that as well. You take them up on that. And then there's people that, the same people that think there should be no bond for anybody, no one should ever go to prison, are out there posting bonds for all the people that are doing the rioting, burning houses, looting businesses, and nobody gets offended by that in any way whatsoever. So it's just the hypocrisy of it all just completely blows my mind. And I get it. We're all hypocrites. It's just a matter of degree. But let's try to keep it to a small degree. Let's try to have, a little bit of intellectual honesty when it comes to some of this stuff. Now, the other thing I want to talk about, and I said in our video this evening, the other day we told people to write a quick little blurb about what is the reason, what they love about the true crime genre. And, maybe a little bit, why do you like Crime Talk as well? And some people left a comment. So remember when I say always leave a comment below, we read them. And so today, in between a court appearance, I was able to go through and read and select. And so guess what? I think I said I'd do like 5 mugs. Well, no, we're going to do 6. So I went back into the Crime Talk storage room and I was able to retrieve 6 Crime Talk mugs. And I didn't open up all of these, so I'm assuming whatever I open up will be what they are. And yes, it is a blue Crime Talk mug. And so let's announce the winners here. I'll just use your YouTube names, but I will have Frank get in touch with you so that we can get a good address for everyone. We have 6 of them. And some of the answers I thought were really interesting as to why are you into true crime? And Erin Evans, she wrote, my love for true crime began when I was 9 years old and almost kidnapped. I was waiting at the bus stop with my sister from the house when a car pulled up in the alley and someone hopped out and tried to take me. I ran. My dad, who was watching from the house, a current firefighter at the time, jumped in his car and fled following the perps, crashed into his car in front of the middle school where he was apprehended due to my mom calling 911. Scariest moment of my life, and I've been beyond interested since that day. Very curious about the minds of these people. I love your channel, super informative. I watch every single morning at work. Thank you very much, Aaron. And guess what, Aaron? So because of that response, and thank goodness you're okay, and that can be certainly traumatizing for anyone, let alone a 9-year-old. Glad you're safe. And I can also see how that could have sparked one interest in the law and the whole criminal justice process, how it works. Aaron didn't state whether the person, with the status of the prosecution, how it went, but hopefully sounds like they were more likely prosecuted for sure. So Aaron wrote on here your name, got a mug coming to you as well. Jeanette Stetson Buck, you have a mug coming your way as well. Scott, what I love about true crime is I love learning and how they got caught and what the punishment is going to be. Jeanette, I think that's what a lot of people have interest in is how do these people get caught that commit crime? I mean, sometimes it's so obvious. Sometimes you can rise to the dumb criminal contestant of the day as to how you got caught. Other times it takes a lot more work on behalf of the police and investigators, DNA evidence and how the technology has changed over the years, even since I've been practicing law. I remember one of the first cases I had when I was in the military. It was a very high-ranking staff NCO was accused of doing terrible things, and they had this new stuff coming out called DNA. And at that point, we were still arguing about it and having what they refer to as a Shrek hearing to see if there was enough reliable science behind this DNA stuff. Well, now it's completely accepted, and there's standards and protocols and things that were taking place. But when I had this case, God, it must have been 24 years ago. It was new cutting edge stuff. We were traveling all over the country, talking to labs, talking to expert witnesses, and it changed how people got caught. In that particular case, this senior staff NCO was married and had multiple kids, had to explain why his DNA was on the other young Marine's private parts. Yeah. It was a tough conversation we had to have. Needless to say, the 4-week trial only took about 30 minutes for the jury to find him guilty of all counts. So it's interesting how things have changed and how people get caught. So Jeanette Stetson Buck, a mug is on its way for you. Frank, the hardest working man in show business, will get in touch with you. Please cooperate with him and give him your address. He'll email you privately or whatever we have to do to reach out to you. Excuse me. And then we have Letterman's Girl. This is their YouTube screen name. So glad you're on the mend. I've been fascinated by true crime since I was a kid. I find it interesting to learn the specifics about the crime and the psychological part of it. But mostly the learning and understanding the legal aspects is really so interesting to me. Not that long ago, that was not really accessible to the general public. I think it's our right to understand and see the legal system in action. We have to thank you for literally being the most reasonable, honest, intelligent voice out there to help us understand. Well, thank you for those kind words. And that's what we've obviously tried to do since we started this channel, which was to, give you the facts and the law, the good, the bad, and the ugly about a case. Not every case is going to come out the way you want it to come out. Every case is different. And, that's the thing about the law. If I had $1 for every time somebody said, you know what? My buddy had a case just like this. Well, it wasn't really my buddy. It was my buddy's friend's cousin's neighbor's kid who lived across the street and 2 blocks over, who had a case just like this, and he got the case dismissed. And so I'm not understanding why you can't get this case dismissed. And as I have to tell clients all the time, you know what? You should probably go hire that attorney that got that case dismissed. But I bet if we looked at the case, the facts were different. I've had homicide cases dismissed. I've had terrible cases dismissed because a key witness drops dead. Each case is different. Each case has a life of its own, and each case has to be looked at individually. One cannot make assumptions about every case out there. You can't make assumption about the players involved, whether it's the defendant, the prosecutors, the police, the defense attorneys. They're all different, and everything that they do can ultimately affect how a trial ultimately comes out. So, Letterman's Girl, mug coming to you as well. Then we have Elisa Cash. Why do I love True Crime Talk? Other than the fantastic way you cover the cases. In this world, when things just don't seem to be going your way, listening to Dumb Criminal of the Day segment, life, it's tough at times. But your head is on straight, especially compared to the idiotic things people do in the world today. So Elisa Cash, you have a mug coming your way as well. And we've got 2 more. Roxanne, ask me, will you? Regarding the mug, what I love best regarding true crime. Better by far than CTV, no biased. Your love for the law with the logical fairness and dignity is refreshing. The accuracy in reporting without programming of the mainstream media moguls with douses of humor, dumb criminal contestants. Also, your dedication to this is comforting and is filled with integrity. Thank you so much. Prayers that you're feeling better. Thank you very much, Roxanne. Appreciate that. Thank you for the kind words. Really do appreciate that. There's lots of people out there, I'm sure, that don't like me, but we appreciate that. So, Roxanne, we got a mug for you. And then also, the last one we have here is from Daryl Crapo, Craypo. Maybe a free mug. First of all, there are about 30 million channels on true crime that do nothing but repeat themselves or are out there just trying to cause more problems and putting nothing but lies into people's minds. That's included your evening news. But if you want the real and only true crime show, Scott is the only way to go. He tells the truth, doesn't beat around the bush, and because of his wealth of experience at law, can also give you his perspective on it as well. I just love the show, and now the only true crime show I watch that is worth watching. Scott, just love your show. God bless you. Pray that you are very well soon and back 100%. I'm feeling about 95% right about now. Sure missed you last week. No reason to apologize, et cetera, et cetera. So, Daryl, we have a mug coming to you. Frank, the hardest working man in show business, will get in contact with you and give him your address, and we'll send it to you. We're not even going to charge you shipping and handling. How's that for a gift tonight? Anyway, so let's go to some of the questions that we have coming up here this evening. I'll try to take a look at a couple of these. While I was reading that, I saw stuff going by. Let's take a look here. Let's see what's on people's minds. Scott, back up the cursor to the whole. Let's see here. Let's go all the way up. Let's go all the way back up to the top. Let's see here. Glad you're feeling better. I'm glad I'm feeling better too. That was miserable. Thank goodness that the lovely Miss Kristen was there to take care of me. Couldn't have done it without her. I probably would be completely dehydrated and shriveled up, and no one would even know I was gone if she wasn't there to take care of me and got me food and kept me medicated over that 12 days. What a day, what a week that was. Angie, glad you're feeling better. My uncle's going through it right now. Yeah, Angie, it's crazy. I mean, I wasn't worried about it. I went about my business. If I had to go to court, if I had to go to jail, obviously I wore the mask just like you do. You're required to do because it's not worth becoming a dumb criminal, confronting somebody with it. And, you just never know if you're going to be the one that gets a mild case, be completely asymptomatic, a moderate case, as I was told I had, or a severe case. It's scary stuff for sure. So everyone, please stay safe. And, I know Thanksgiving's coming up. Hopefully everyone will have a great and wonderful Thanksgiving. And like I said, I think there's 3 types of people: those that have had COVID, those that are going to get it, and those that have it. It's just simply the way it is, I think, until they get the vaccine out to everybody. So we'll see. Let's see here. Thought a dumb criminal came for you. Sailor Moonbeam. That's right. Nope. They have more to worry about that than me. A strange way of dealing with a pandemic by getting sick of it. Yeah. So glad you're feeling better. Hi from Denver there, Kells, K-E-L's. Pixie dust. They shut the court system down in Indianapolis, Indiana. It's happening everywhere, ladies and gentlemen. I was supposed to start a very significant homicide trial December 7th. And the chief judge said no trials until after the first of the year. Okay, but guess what? Everything's been pushed off to the first of the year. My trial calendar schedule is absolutely crazy. And the reality of it is I don't see us resuming jury trials anytime soon. I think at the earliest, we're probably talking legitimately probably March, maybe even June or July, till we get kind of back to some semblance of normal. And that's going to be a real problem. Obviously, district attorneys are going to have to start triaging cases. You can only continue these cases for so long because there's cases that are still coming in, not at the pace that they were coming in, but they're still coming in at a pretty good lick. And eventually the courts are not going to have neither the time nor the resources to handle these cases at all. And when you have people in custody, their cases take priority and speedy trial runs. But you can have a guy out of custody that says, my speedy trial's running. You got 6 months. Get me to trial. Let's do this thing. If they don't, I think we're going to start seeing cases dismissed because I have looked and I have reread the United States Constitution. I've even looked in the Colorado Constitution, and nowhere do I find a pandemic exception in the Constitution anywhere, which I think is another interesting issue because there are some cases that went up to the United States Supreme Court not long ago. And it wasn't a criminal case, but it was cases where it was in Nevada, where you can't have 50 people in a church, but you can have 200 people in a casino. It went all the way to the Supreme Court, United States Supreme Court, and they didn't take the case. It was, I think, Justice Bader Ginsburg had passed away, so the replacement, Amy Coney Barrett, had not been seated yet. Needless to say, they didn't have enough justices to take that case, so the precedent stood that the people couldn't go to church. Well, guess what? Those churches are making those same challenges again, and it's going up to the Supreme Court again. We'll see. I believe it's Justice Kagan that has that particular area of the country, her districts, on these emergency type appeals to see whether it comes up. And I don't know if anyone ever watched I thought a very interesting speech by Justice Alito that he gave to the Federalist Society. Now, if anyone's familiar or not familiar with the Federalist Society, and I'm not a member of the Federalist Society, but basically it is a organization that was started, I think, back in the 80s in law schools, and it was basically to have people think on their judicial philosophy as a originalist. And Alito, who's a member of the Federalist Society, stated that, we've had lots of challenges, but nowhere do we find a pandemic exception anywhere in the Constitution. And he said, this stuff can't go on forever, and you can't have basically governors basically creating laws and remember it's the old I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill. You got to have the legislature, Congress, and the federal system pass the laws, go to each house, gets approved, goes to the president. If not, it's vetoed, goes back, or gets killed in committee, all that kind of stuff. But now you have, everybody legislating by executive order. And executive orders are supposed to be more like policy decisions. Like, this is what we are going to deem as a policy decision. And so it's I think it's going to be very interesting here really soon. I think the court has tried to give these public officials as much leeway as they could because this was such a new area of the law. But we're talking about fundamental rights, ladies and gentlemen. And whether you are a religious person or not a religious person, you have a right to go to church. You have a right to assemble, to peacefully assemble. And like I said, nowhere does that fundamental right say, unless, of course, there's a pandemic going on. And so these rules that they're trying to issue by legislative or executive fiat can't be indefinite. It can't be narrowly. It has to be narrowly tailored. And it has, it's a fundamental right. We're talking strict scrutiny. The government has to be able to say that there is, something so dangerous that we're going to stop this pandemic. And I'm not sure how they're going to be able to rationalize that when, I hate to say it, and like I said, it was 12 miserable days of my life, but you have a 99.7% chance of recovery if you get it. And don't get me wrong, there were a couple of hours there I thought, man, I may be in that 0.3% because I felt so bad. I thought my head was literally going to explode. Lots of interesting issues regarding this. And I encourage everyone to go watch Samuel Alito's address to the Federalist Society. I don't know if Frank can put that up, but I watched it on YouTube and I was like, wow, he's a smart guy. He really is. Let's see, going back to the questions, Danielle, Scott, I think she got off pretty well, 60 days. I agree. A $500,000 wire fraud case and you get 60 days? Are you kidding me? I had a guy not long ago had $1 million wire fraud case. Now, maybe he was on probation for the exact same thing, but guess what? He got 8 years. Exactly. So, Lori Laughlin, get over it. You were so arrogant that you thought your child was so deserving that you could just write a check and, get your kid in and nobody would care because you were special. You thought you were special. I wonder could you imagine if college admissions were like Lady Justice and were completely blindfolded? Do you think all those legacy kids could get into the schools that they wanted to? I don't know. Or some of them just got into school the old-fashioned way. They were an athlete, like my son. But I'll tell you, my son, he's a smart kid. But he went to the United States Air Force Academy. They needed him for the golf team. Who am I to say? We're talking national security here, I think. Needless to say, I'm sure there were much smarter kids than my son, but they needed him for the golf team and he got in. Probably not as smart as some of them. He can hold his own. Got it. He had all the credentials, but he probably wouldn't have got in had he not played golf. Bottom line. But I'll tell you that. And he'll tell you that as well. He's appreciative of it. It was a fine education. I think it's worth about $300,000, maybe more. I think it's up to $500,000. I think the last I heard. It's just a great education. So I highly encourage anyone to send their children to any United States military academy. I always want to go to the Naval Academy, but was never smart enough to get in. So Ruzy85, who is the framed picture of the army guy behind him? That is no army guy. That right there. Let's talk about him. Lieutenant General Chester Puller, a.k.a. Chesty. Right? I think even in the what's the movie? I can't think of the name off the top of my head. Anyway, we're there. It's Marine Corps boot camp in there. Excuse me. And they say, "Good night, Chesty, wherever you are." They're talking about this guy, Lieutenant General Chesty Puller. All right? He was awarded five Navy crosses. All right? Highest medal that the Navy Marine Corps can give out other than the Medal of Honor. Think about it. 5 Navy crosses. And this is back, in the early turn of the century. He's down there in the jungle, the banana wars down in Central America. He's off in China. 5 Navy crosses where you have to really do something, not like kind of today, and not trying to minimize anything, but it's like, oh, you were there and a bullet was fired over your head. Oh my God, you're giving him a Bronze Star. We won't give you a Combat V, but here's a Bronze Star. Him, Combat V, 5 Navy crosses. Probably all could have been Medal of Honor. He's a stud. When he was at the Chosin Reservoir and he was surrounded by the Chinese in South Korea, what did he say? He said, "Good. Now we've got them exactly where we want them." Okay? And he did a fighting retreat. He cut his way through the lines and escaped back to safety. Chesty Puller is a stud. Anything you need to know about the military, anything you need to know about thinking like a defense attorney, because that's really what tactics are. Like if you really want to be a good attorney, go read Sun Tzu, The Art of War. People think, "Oh, Scott, you're crazy. How could Sun Tzu, The Art of War?" Exactly. Particularly as a defense attorney. You're usually outgunned. You're outnumbered. You're going up against the United States government, the people of the state of whomever's prosecuting your client. And it's you. And that's it. And you only got one shot at it. And if you're going to go to trial and win, you need to do something that they don't expect you to do. Because one thing we can say about the government when they prosecute cases, they're predictable. All right? They're so predictable, it's almost boring. Okay? I could tell you what a prosecutor is going to say. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is my opening statement. I am a prosecutor. I work for you. I'm going to tell you the evidence that you're going to see. You're going to hear from witness A, and he's going to say this, and then witness B. And at the end of the day, I'm going to ask you to find the defendant guilty." And the defense is going to get up and say, whatever they're saying is a bunch of crap. Let me tell you what's really going to go on and what really happened. And then you get to the closing arguments after they present their evidence, and they're boring because all the prosecutor has to do is say, "And what happened next?" And then the witnesses talk about what they see. The defense attorneys, though, they get up there and set the stage. They get to say, "Okay, witness A, you said you just happened to be there and shots rang out. Well, isn't it true, witness A, that really on that day you all had been drinking, right? And you were probably doing drugs as well, were you not?" "Well, yeah, I guess so." And what it turns out to be is when the shots rang out, it's because people were twirling the gun around in their hands and it accidentally discharged. "Well, yeah, maybe. In fact, that was your gun that went off, wasn't it? It wasn't my client's gun that went off. And he maybe picked it up after you dropped it, after it discharged." "Well, maybe. I don't want to say that for sure. And I was pretty high at the time." So the defense is the one that brings out all this stuff. And so then you get to the closing arguments. The prosecutor case is so boring. They get up and say, "This is my first closing statement because I get 2 because I'm so bad." It's really because they have the burden. And so they get up and they say, I'm so bad, and it's my burden, but really because it's so bad, I'm going to get up and tell you, these are the elements that we have to prove that it was in the state of Colorado on about this date, and that the defendant did these things. Boom, boom, boom. Thank you so much. And the defense gets up and says, that's all crap, ladies and gentlemen. We're not arguing about those 5 elements. We're only focusing on this one, the one they don't want to talk about, that it wasn't my guy because they got to prove identity, blah, blah, blah. And there's showmanship, and there's sparklers going off, and there's fireworks going off because of the thunderous roar of the defense attorney. And then the prosecutor gets up and says, oh my gosh, he said all kinds of crazy things, and I did not plan for them in my second closing because I didn't know what he was going to say. And man, wasn't that really good and interesting? And I'm so boring in my second closing because I'm a prosecutor. And here I am, so please find him guilty because we're the government and we're not supposed to lose. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. See? Hopefully that explains the court system and prosecutors. Because if you ever watched a case from the beginning to end, I mean, tell me the prosecutors are some of the most boring people. All right. You need to have a little bit of flair for the dramatic, a little bit of theatrics. You got to grab people's attention that when you get up from your chair, literally the room stops and says, I bet this Reich guy's got something to say about this. That's right. Let's see what he's got to say. Can't say I'm going to win them all, but I'm certainly going to do my best. Let's see, go back to some questions here. I'll never understand how these parents pay to have their kids get into college because the kids aren't smart enough to get into college. I know. It's just crazy to me. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my children, and thank God my son, he got a great free education. Now, of course, he owes the United States Air Force 12 years of his life, but he gets to do it by flying F-16s. I say, sign me up. Where do I get to go, right? My daughter, smart girl, she even applied to the academies because I think she wanted to do so for me. But she got a nomination, but she didn't get an appointment. And frankly, she was a ballerina. Even they were wondering, like, you were a ballerina and now all of a sudden you want to go to the West Point? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But needless to say, she went to a very fine and expensive school in Southern California, a.k.a. Chapman University. And she got out of there debt-free thanks to yours truly. And the reality of it is, though, she originally wanted to go and get a BFA in dance. And I said, Kelsey, I love you. I love you dearly. But guess what? I am not going to pay $70,000 a year so that you can have a BFA in fine dance. No, not going to do it. So if you want to pick it as a hobby or as a double major, you can do it, but you need to get a real degree. So she got a biology degree, and now she's a nurse practitioner after going to another fine and very expensive school called Vanderbilt University. But now she has her first real job as a nurse practitioner, and I'm proud of her. But the point of it is, no matter how big a check somebody could have written for her, if she could not have swung the academics, I mean, let's face it, organic chemistry, that's apparently the class that weeds out the people that are going to go on to be medical professionals and those that are not, okay? She passed. She went to a fine school. But just because you can write a check doesn't mean you got to get through the curriculum. I don't understand why parents would do that. If my kids weren't smart enough to do that, I'd be like, I'm not paying that kind of money. You can go down to community college. You can do it. You can go on down to University of Colorado at Denver, where yours truly graduated from. Because here's the dirty little secret out there, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody cares where you went to undergrad school, all right? The only people that care where anybody ever went to school were people that went to Ivy League schools. That's it, right? You've heard the joke. How do you know that somebody went to Harvard within the first 5 minutes of meeting them? Because they'll tell you. Those are the only people that care. All right. And I've gone up in trial against people that went to Harvard. I've hired attorneys that went to Harvard. And frankly, I wasn't that impressed. I would take me over them any day. And it's not just because I like me more. I just think I'm better at it. Going to Harvard is kind of like being that prosecutor. This is what I'm going to tell you. This is what you're going to see. Please vote for my side when all is said and done. That's most of the people that I've seen. They just been told all their life that they're smart. And when you beat them, they hate it. They hate it. They hate it because they can't stand the fact that some kid that got a public high school diploma that had to join the military to go to college and then goes to CU Denver, not even CU Boulder, and then goes to, gets into, I think, a pretty decent law school, University of Denver. They hate it. They hate it like their pedigree is the one that is going to get them through it. I think I told you this the other day. I'm one of the few attorneys here in Denver that's actually done a trial during the COVID time period. It was a Palpo case. And, the United States Attorney's Office doesn't hire anybody unless you have a big fancy degree, usually from some big fancy school. And here I am, just little old me, and we go in there and we kick their ass. But then I get this call. They're putting on a CLE, a continuing legal education, and they're going to talk about the legal process in this COVID era and talking about trials. And I thought to myself, well, that's funny, self. I wonder why they just didn't call me. So instead, the guy that's going to give the class didn't say, why don't you just have Scott give the class and discuss how the trial went and what you did? He picked my brain for an hour so that he'd give the class, and he says, of course, he'd give me credit, but it just shows you that unless you are from that class, the cool kid club, which I have never been in, nor will I ever be in the cool kids club, it's the kind of thing where they're like, wow, not only did you win, Scott, you're the only one that's done it. Oh, okay. But you're still not cool enough to give the class to all the other people that went to the fancy schools. But we'll make sure we reference you real quickly. Thanks. So maybe it's just me. Maybe I've got a little chip on my shoulder. I don't know. Amy's, Scott, when you pay the court your bond, do you get that back when you show up at your court date? Well, maybe a little bit, Amy. Yes. The bond is there to secure one's appearance through the end of the case. If the case is concluded, the bond will then be discharged, and then the money will be returned if it's a cash bond. If it is a surety bond, the surety will be released, and if the surety, the bondsperson, took collateral, they'll have to give that collateral back. Normally, it's a house, so they have to file a release of a deed of trust to get that money back. But if it's a cash bond, yes, they courts have to give the money back. Sometimes the court will say, hey, your $5,000 bond is going to be released, and you have $2,000 in court costs, fines, and probation supervision fees. And so, you just want us to take it out of that. And sometimes people will say, yeah, just take it out of that for sure. All right. There we go. So hopefully that answers that question for you there, Amy. Let's see here. Everyone chat, happy Thanksgiving. Yes, I wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully you get to be with family. My son is actually coming home, so I'm really excited about that. My daughter has to work. It's her first job, so I understand that too. Makes you look like you have an earring. It's funny because one of the books behind you has a ring on it, and it looks like when you sit up, it makes you look like you have an earring on. Oh, yeah, no. I mean, it may look like that, but no, I would never have an earring. I assure you that. Yes, Marissa. Yes, the psychology behind so many of these cases is intriguing. trying to figure out the why. Yeah, and that's the thing that is interesting to me as well as a criminal defense attorney is why. I've asked clients over the years, why? Why would you think that was a good idea? Why did you think you could get away from it? Why did you think you should strangle your wife and then drive around with her in the back of the car like a weekend at Bernie's? And most of the time, there's no good excuse. No good excuse. A lot of the times the psychology around it is they just lost it for whatever reason. And then, it's the kind of the cover-up that always seems to do that. Electric cowboy, drink more water. Dehydration causes headaches. Furnace running all around you dries you out. I've had more IVs and drank more water in the last 2 weeks than I have in the last year. I assure you of that. But yes, good advice. Always hydrate. Betty, DNA is Smith. DNA is great. Betty Smith. Totally agree. It's freed a lot of innocent people. I think nobody would want an innocent person to go to prison, and it's just sad that the technology, took so long. But it's here, and it's only getting better. So, Denvogus dope suit. Thank you. DNA doesn't lie, does it? No. I don't know if anyone wants to hear a little war story. Once it was about DNA, and it was with a great attorney. He was a great prosecutor, and the reason why he was a great prosecutor was because he was a defense attorney in the Navy Reserves, and so he really had a flair for it. He was just a great attorney. We'll just refer to him as Dave, and had this case where my client may have gone in, and I guess he was ultimately convicted of going into a 7-Eleven, robbing everybody in line of what's in their wallets at that particular time. And so there's like 7 aggravated robberies, 10 to 32, 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 all mandatory consecutive. So there's like 7 people. There's 70 years there. Then he allegedly goes down the block and shoots somebody, making them a paraplegic for the rest of their life. And I had nothing. I had nothing. I think maybe I've told this story before, but this was that ain't my baby defense. And, I literally had nothing. I would hold up a photo and say, to my client, I don't want this to be you, but I'm your attorney, and I'm telling you, this looks like you. He's like, that ain't me. I'm like, okay, well, who is it? I don't know. Only person that would say that didn't look like my client was my client's mom. She'd say, that ain't my baby. I'm like, okay. And so I put the mom up and said, ma'am, you've seen this video, played it for her. Here's a still photo. Is that you? Is that your picture of you? That ain't my baby. So we went with that ain't my baby defense. I had nothing. Like I said, I was his attorney, and I thought, I don't know, it looks like I don't want it to be him, but that's him. And a jury of his peers also concluded that was him as well. But in closing, I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, not only do we have the mother, if you cannot trust a man's own mother to come in and say, that's not him, she's not going to lie to you, ladies and gentlemen. If that was her baby, she told you. She'd say that was her baby, but that ain't her baby. And she said that wasn't him. And I got up and said, and the other thing, what didn't the prosecution bring you? No DNA evidence. They said my guy had a bottle that he picked up, and there had to have been DNA sweat on the bottle. Why is there no DNA? Because they failed to collect the bottle, blah, blah, blah. And this great prosecutor, and he's a great prosecutor, and he's a friend. He went off to work at the United States Attorney's Office, and we've had lunch several times since he came back to the Denver area. And he's just a great guy, and he's a great, great attorney. And he gets up, and after my fireworks and explosions of powerful closing statement, and he gets up and he says, Mr. Reich wants DNA. You know what, ladies and gentlemen? That means one thing. Don't need any. And he went upon and went through and explained why. Not one of these, this is the evidence that I'm going to show you. He got up there powerfully and explained, this witness identified him. This witness identified him. We don't need any DNA, blah, blah, blah. Whereupon the jury promptly convicted him. And I kept thinking, when he said DNA, I'm just trying to sit there thinking, touche. Like, that was just beautiful. Trying not to smile because it was so good. I love that story. It's just a good story. I love it. Needless to say, the defendant served in a 160-year sentence, I do believe. I mean, not because he paralyzed somebody with a gunshot, but all the consecutive aggravated robberies of robbing everybody as they stood in line at the convenience store. So anyway, sorry we digressed just a little bit this evening. Hey, if you have not done so already, we would please ask that you please subscribe, like, share with your friends, family. We're getting close. I think what are we, 159,000, maybe getting to 160? 159,000. And that was taking a week off too. So we're a little behind schedule. So tell your friends, have them share. We'd really like to get to 200,000 really soon. I think that would be a lot of fun. Yeah, that cracks me up, right? Annie, my baby. That's funny. Let's see, Matt Ryan Kim is... Scott, you really need to go home and get some rest, please. I know my voice is getting there. But anyway, we're just about done. I want to thank everybody for tuning in this evening. Like I said, please go to hit the little like button, hit the subscribe button as well. We'd really appreciate that. And as always, if you want any Crime Talk gear, Crime Talk gear, you can go to the Teespring below, and every mug that I have here on my desk, you can get there. Now, 6 lucky people got the mugs. We'll send those out to them hopefully this week, if not next week. And we got the blue mug as well. Let's talk about it. You can get all those at Teespring. What would be a great stocking stuffer for you, your spouse? Get the Crime Talk gear. I mean, let's face it, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, it's not like I'm going to quit my day job because I sell a few mugs. They're pretty reasonably priced, but everybody seems to enjoy them. I know I do, and I think it's the best. And if you go to their Teespring as well, you can get shirts, you can get sweatshirts, hoodies. Who wouldn't want to like to wake up in your Crime Talk nightshirt? Exactly. Show of hands. Who would want that? That's right. Let's face it, your spouse, significant other is probably not going to get it for you. So you got to do it yourself. Get what you want and make them look good. Put it in the stocking stuffer kind of stuff. It's going to be here before you know it. That would be, it would be good. I'm sorry to hear that, Norma Thomas. I'm okay. My dad passed on Veterans Day. So my mom's taking it hard. They were married 70 years. Well, Norma Thomas, I'm so sorry for your loss. Really, truly sorry for that. And 70 years, I hope your mom is doing okay. And, she won't die of a broken heart. 70 years is a long time. So thoughts and prayers go out to you. Rainbow Bright 13. My son gets to come home from the Navy for Thanksgiving. Well, enjoy it, Rainbow Bright 13. This is, I always find it interesting. I probably got a lot of work to do on it yet, but I remember watching once, it was George Bush 41, the older George Bush. This man had been a World War II veteran, Navy pilot, director of CIA, vice president, president. And they asked him, what was your greatest accomplishment? And he said that the kids still come home. And that's what I would like to hopefully make sure that the kids and the grandkids still come home. I think that is kind of a judge as to not necessarily how you've done, but the fact that maybe they still want to hang out with you goes a long way. Let's see, my brother-in-law went to prom with SW. I live in the same town as them and still really impacted this community. Okay, I'm not really sure about that. When the DNA can tell you that the individual was doing when the DNA was placed there, it'll be better. Right now, they can get you on dandruff or ashy skin on a breeze. Yeah, SSS. You're true. That's true. That's a very true statement as it relates to DNA. And the DNA experts will tell you that they cannot tell you exactly how, when, and under what circumstances the DNA was placed there. It could have been there, let's say if there was, an example, a sexual assault. Someone could say, oh, there was a sexual assault. There's DNA there. Well, it could have been consensual. There's lots of ways and reasons, and I've had cases and we try to think about all the different ways it could be placed there consensually. But a good DNA expert will never opine and say, oh, it had to have got there because of this particular way. They won't say that. They'll simply say it had to come through touching, or that it was cells that fell off and were placed there. Somebody touched it. But they will not be able to ever tell you how, when, and exactly under what circumstances it was there. And so that is kind of the downfall as it relates to DNA, because, yes, here on my table, here in the office, if they were to swab this, it'd probably have my DNA on it. It may also have Frank's DNA on it. And if somebody were to be found here in the chair, deceased, and they swab it for DNA, Frank and I were here, but it doesn't mean that we necessarily had anything to do with the murder. So it really all depends. It just depends on, you can't depend everything on science. You still have to have a plausible story as to what happened. Let's see here. Let's see if there's a couple of questions here. Looking at everyone typing CW and then CW, that I'm looking around because that's my initials. I get it now. Okay. Katie, still feel like the Watts girlfriend. I don't know. No evidence that rises to the level of probable cause, which is pretty low level. And I assure you, I think that if the prosecutors thought that somebody else was involved, they would have done it. Now, one thing that I need to look into much more closely, just while we're on briefly the subject of Chris Watts. Remember the story we brought you, and there's a video from last week about the parents and the insurance money and the whole interpleader stuff? Well, being your friendly, local, lovable attorney and knowing how to obviously legally and appropriately access public records, the interpleader documents had all of the records regarding the insurance and who was listed on the insurance. And obviously we know some $450,000 was interpled into the court, and ultimately there was a settlement, and it's unclear exactly who received all the money, whether it's the Rusiks or not. But the exhibits have attached a lot of information on there about when it was filled out, when it was requested. So that's going to be my project now that I'm feeling better, is to go through and try to figure out if there's any connection as it relates to the time periods, and if there's any relevance to the financial aspect of it all. I think from what I can tell from my cursory review is that items were updated on his birthday, and that Chris Watts' birthday. And I don't think there's anything nefarious on there, but it certainly makes you wonder and question whether that was somehow in the back of his mind, that if the insurance money, if he had got away with it, was going to help him get his new fresh start with his now unknown named mistress. I mean, we knew her before previously as Nicole Kessinger, but now she's unnamed since she has changed her name, and the court has sealed those records so no one will know what her name is, in fact, to this day. So we'll have to wait and see. I'll go through that. I'll report back to you to let me see, but I think there's definitely something there where you had the thought he knew what he was doing. They do this, looked like it was on his birthday or maybe after a pay raise. He kind of goes and updates all his records, but I'll go through that. But there was really never any talk about any motive as it related to Chris Watts and money, because I think everybody thought he was so damn broke. There was no mention of life insurance policies, at least not that I can recall. Maybe someone can refresh my memory if there's something else that's out there. But it makes you wonder if that was part of the plan. If he knew, yeah, there's that insurance policy. Yeah, that'll help me get my new fresh start. Just something to think about. Not trying to, go down any particular road. It really doesn't matter. He pled guilty. It's over. But the reality of it is that it makes you wonder, and there was so little talk about it. And the only reason it came out was because the insurance company had to interplead it because the Ruzicks and the Cindy and Ronnie Watts all made claims for the same money. So it's interesting. I'll take a look at it. I mean, it's a pretty good stack of paper that I got to go through. And like I said, I was a little under the weather for a couple of days. So we'll go from there. Angelina, you look fevered. I'm a pharmacist. Well, I've been checking my temperature and I'm normal. It's probably all these hot show lights beating down on me. So, all right. Hey, thanks, Kat, for the, super chat there. Thank you very much. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in for us tonight on our Tuesday night live. Hopefully that was enjoyable. I try to make it enjoyable. We went on a couple of tangents, but that's what kind of makes these lives fun. There's not a whole lot of scripting to anything that goes on, and sometimes you never know based upon the questions where things will go. So we'll call it an evening here. We'll go over to our Patreon Tuesday night chat, and in there we have the secret phone number. So if you're not a Patreon, now is the time to go sign up at our Patreon. And then you'll get the password or the link, and then we'll give you the phone number as well, and you can call in. So hopefully you would like to join us for that in just, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. So thanks for watching. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you again, and thanks you again for everyone for all the nice words about me getting sick and getting better, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Have a great evening and a wonderful Thanksgiving if we don't talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day.